Hello, 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 everybody. Welcome to the Musings and Music Show on VOSA World Radio. My name is EGBE MBIWAN MONJIMBO, and I'm coming to you again, as usual, with a special edition of the show. This time I have a guest, a very distinguished guest with me. So I'm always glad when that happens because I don't have to just be blabbing by myself. If you're listening, then you have no clue who that is. But if you're watching, you've probably caught a glimpse of her already. But I'm going to ask her to please go ahead and introduce herself to us. Ma'am, who are you in a nutshell?
Hi, madam. Good morning, or whatever time of the day it is for you. My name is Felicia Tendo Foinmbam. I'm a Cameroonian and a mother of three beautiful children. People call them special needs children, but they are children. Whether they are special or they are not, they are my children. And the first one is male, he's called Gerard. The second is Victory. And sorry, the second is Sammy, and the third is Victory. Sorry about that.
Right. No problem. Go on, were you going to say something more about yourself?
Okay, I come from an administrative background. That was my background initially. I did business administration, even though right now I'm everywhere because of my kids' situation. I'm no more really specifically into business. I am into motivation for children with special needs, specifically their parents. I give out my time to them. I'm also running a vocational center which caters for children with special needs because we are trying to see how we can help these people have a better life. So unless there's something else you want to know more.
I was just making sure that
married. I'm also married. I'm married to Mr. Foinmbam, retired Colonel Foinmbam, and he's the father of the three children. And that's it for now.
All right. And because you mentioned them, I don't mind starting the sharing of my screen early enough. Usually I wait till a little later, but I don't mind starting the sharing of my screen early enough, and I'm going to go ahead and let people see the children you've mentioned right there. Let me do this.
Yeah.
Go over here, and here we go. Here they are, the three beautiful. Yes. Am I sharing my screen?
Yes, please.
The three beautiful children you mentioned. So if I go in order, who's the gentleman right here? Are they in order of birth right there?
Yes, please. That's Gerard.
Gerard.
That's Sammy.
And this is
that's Victory.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then of course I'm going to go ahead and show one more. There you are. That's you right there with them.
Yes.
Very, very two handsome young men and a very, very beautiful daughter right there. That's awesome. For now, I'll stop my share and come back to you because you mentioned that they are special needs children. Well, special needs is a vast spectrum of special needs. Yes. What is the special needs? What categorizes them? What is their particular special need?
Yeah, when I say my kids are special needs, is they are specifically hearing impaired, and all of them were born hearing impaired. Gerard, Sammy, and Victory, they were all born hearing impaired. It's not like they got ill and lost their hearing or anything. They were just born like that.
Okay, can you just walk us through briefly and tell us the story? Because most of us, you have a baby, you're happy, as they say, daddy. Right. So just walk us through how all of this went down.
Okay. Now, when this story is a very long story, but I will try to make it as short as possible. Yeah. My firstborn, I had my first child in November 1993. Specifically 23rd of November. In a few days, it will be his birthday, 23rd of November, 1993. When Gerard was born, before his birth, I had a little bit of delayed labor.
Mm-hmm.
So eventually when he was born, but I didn't go through surgery, there was nothing, it was just a delayed labor. But eventually the child came naturally and started growing up like every other child. But at the age of, say around 1 year and a half and maybe 2 years, you are not hearing the child say anything.
Mm-hmm.
So you start observing and wondering, what's going on with the child?
Yeah.
But since we are in an environment where newborn screening is not known, so I took the child to see just a pediatrician who looked at the child and said, well, I don't think there's any problem with this child, just sit and observe. So we continued observing until when Gerard was 4 and still not saying anything. Then another advice came and said, no, take him to school. He's not talking because he's the firstborn child, and usually boys are slower to speak than girls. That's why he's not speaking. So take him to school when he will meet his other friends.
Yes.
When he will meet his peers, he will start talking.
Mm-hmm.
So of course, we took him to school, enrolled him in a school in Douala. Okay, I forgot to say I'm actually in Douala, Cameroon.
Mm-hmm.
So we took him to that school, and generally academic year starts in September.
Mm-hmm.
And by December, the teacher called us, that is my husband and I,
Mm-hmm.
and said she thought there was something wrong with the child, that we needed to test him just to confirm. And then we tried to look around in Douala. We did not have any place where he could be tested. So he could only be tested in Yaoundé, which is another city of Cameroon, the capital city. That was 1997.
Mm-hmm.
I actually now travel with Gerard to Yaoundé, where the doctor who was recommended to us was based.
Mm-hmm.
Now, when I got to Yaoundé, and may I just say, before going to Yaoundé, by that 1997, I already had my second child,
Okay.
Sammy, who was born in May 1997.
Okay.
So
baby at the time when you were traveling.
He was baby. He was just like 2 months old when I went to Yaoundé. So I went to Yaoundé in they call it L'Hôpital de la Caisse, that is the social welfare hospital. That is where the doctor who did the test, it's a BERA test, they call it the brain stem something.
Okay.
So the child was tested, and we were recommended to an ENT doctor. The ENT doctor was Dr. Munono. He was at the central hospital at the time.
Right.
So when the doctor did the test, he gave me the results. It was sealed. I went with it to the central hospital, and I saw Dr. Munono and gave it to him. And when Dr. Munono opened the envelope, he looked at it and he told me, Madam, your son is 110 decibels deaf.
110 decibels deaf?
Yes. So I looked at him and I said, what is that? What does that mean? To tell you the truth, I didn't even know what it meant.
That sound is measured in decibels.
Yes, I didn't know what it meant. So I asked him, what does that mean? He said, that is how sound is measured, and your son cannot hear that sound. I said, but what does it mean? I don't understand.
In concrete terms, yes.
Yes. Then he asked me, do you know the sound an aeroplane makes when it's about to take off? I said, yes. Fortunately, in my earlier years, I had had a privilege to enter a plane, so I could imagine. So I said, yes, I do. He said, your son cannot hear that sound. My goodness. I was like, what? That sound, which is usually so
a
loud.
Deafening sound, yes.
A deafening sound. How? My son cannot hear that sound? And I had my baby in my arms and the other one on the other side. You know, I just sat, it was like I was in either a trance or something. I can't explain. Fortunately, I was with my elder brother, one of my older brothers, who was with me. he just, after the doctor finished, then I asked the doctor, so what do I do now?
Exactly.
He told me that the child is deaf. Just go and look for a school for the deaf and enroll him. Okay. So now my brother, when he said we should go, I couldn't continue staying in his office. I had to go. My brother had to like grab all of us,
I
me, the
know.
brother, because I could not move. So we went out and of course, crying started.
I can imagine.
I cried and cried and cried. And then after that, I returned to Douala and then the search for a school started.
Right.
So in Douala, they didn't have any, let me give a little bit of background here. Cameroon is a bilingual country where we speak both French and English.
Correct.
We come from the English-speaking part, though we were based in Douala, which is the French-speaking part.
Right.
But we wanted to educate our children in our language, which was
Correct. English.
We speak English at home, his grandparents speak English, everybody speaks English. So we were not going to enroll him in a school where he would speak French. But unfortunately, there was no school that was practicing English language as the mode of instruction.
Mm-hmm.
So I was also referred to Kumba, another town in Cameroon, where they had a school for the deaf. But when I went to the school, it was like a boarding school. It was
right. For a child that young.
Yeah, for my baby of 4 years old, I didn't see myself putting my child in a boarding school at 4.
Mm-hmm.
So I came back with him to Douala. And then, well, at some point, we just took him back to the school in Douala just to have something.
Yes.
Yeah. Then now, my second born was growing up.
Mm-hmm.
Sammy, when he was 1.5 years old, it was the same story. He was not saying anything, he was just babbling baby language and all that. And my fears again started.
Okay.
And they said, oh, you're very anxious. Oh, you're a young mother. Oh, you are these boy children are like, they don't speak. Boys, boys, boys. I said, okay. So now we were advised that we should separate. No, he's copying from his brother. That's why he's
okay.
speaking.
Okay.
So we needed to separate the two of them. And I was like, my 1.5-year-old baby, where do I take this child now? Of course, my mother stepped in and offered to have the baby. So the baby was taken, my mom took the baby in the village, and I stayed in Douala with the firstborn Gerard. So, but now after he had been taken, they were separated, my search for a school still continued because I wasn't satisfied with what my son was having wherever he was.
Right.
So I went to the British Council in Cameroon, just picked a series of addresses there in the UK more especially.
Mm-hmm.
I wrote to those schools and I asked them, do they have any institutions in Africa or schools where they work with so that my child could at least go to school in Africa?
Right.
First was what we could afford, and secondly, he would not be away from home.
Mm-hmm.
So the distance will not be too much.
Mm-hmm.
And I got three recommendations actually. The first recommendation was I was told of Nigeria,
Mm-hmm.
Ghana, and Kenya.
Mm-hmm.
When I heard of Kenya, Kenya was very welcoming because earlier on in my life, I had gone to school in Kenya. I did my university in Kenya.
Okay.
And I also have a sister who is married to Kenya.
Mm-hmm.
So Kenya was very welcoming for me.
Right.
That way, we started looking at how to get to Kenya and see that the child gets into school and starts some education.
Right.
So in 1999,
Mm-hmm.
I had to take my son Gerard to school in Kenya. And by then, 1999, I was about 4 months pregnant.
Almost
So
pregnant with Victory now.
yes, I was 4 months pregnant with Victory. Sammy was now about 2 years old. So when I was going to Kenya, we traveled, all of them, Gerard, Sammy, and myself.
Right.
As soon as we reached Kenya, the first thing I knew is that when I get to Kenya, I'll make sure I do an assessment for Sammy in an environment where nobody will oppose me or I will not get any ideas, because I needed to know, I needed to be sure.
Right.
On top of the fact that in Cameroon, at the time, and I think even up to now, we don't have infant assessment. So it was not possible even for my 2-year-old child to be assessed at that time. I don't know whether they have it now, but at that time it was not there.
It didn't exist.
Not exist. Even the Beran test, which usually is what they use for infants, at that time they told us we could only do it when the child was about 4 years old. And I thought,
it's a little, I'm sorry to interrupt right there, but that is almost a little ridiculous, because the longer the time, any condition, the longer it stays, the more, the harder it is to reverse or to fix. So I'm wondering, you make a test, so my kid has to sit there till the kid is 4.
Yeah.
And that's the time when you do. I just had to interject there because that made me, I just went like, wait, how? If there's anything wrong, the sooner you find out, the better.
Yeah. Well, the truth is, out here, when there's a problem, we start by guessing.
Yeah.
There is no policy for infant screening in Cameroon. I don't know. I stand to be corrected. I don't know if it's done now, but at that time it was not there. So when I was going to Kenya, I went with my son. And as soon as I got there, the first thing was to book an appointment to have him assessed. And of course, the hospitals in Kenya also needed to assess him for intervention to start. They could not do any intervention without knowing exactly.
Are we working with?
Yes. So we went to Kenya, and on the 19th of December 1999, Sami, who was born in May, he was about 2.5 years now,
right,
was assessed, and my worst worries were confirmed that he was also deaf. Now, my firstborn had already been declared deaf. My second child now, I'm being told he's also deaf. And here am I with the third pregnant. I was so worried. Let me take a sip of water before I continue with this.
Go right ahead. Go right ahead.
So, when I was given the results that Sami was also deaf, I can't cheat you, Egbe. I cried myself. I cried myself to sleep. I actually even wish I would lose that pregnancy, because I was asking myself.
Yeah, you have the feeling that, okay, this one too.
Yes. What if I have a third child who is deaf? What will I do? I just wish that pregnancy would evaporate. But as God will have it, it never evaporated. So now in 2000, I had the baby, Victory. I had to come back to Cameroon because I came back with Sami and then had the baby in Cameroon.
Okay.
But Gerard stayed behind with my sister to start school.
Okay.
Then Victor was born in March 2000. Then the same sequence starts. You're observing, nothing is coming like that.
Deja vu is settling in, like, yeah, here we go again.
Yes, yeah. So eventually, when Sami was now of age, since there was no school in Cameroon, we had to take him again to Kenya. And then I also had Victory assessed, and it was also confirmed that she was deaf.
Right.
So that is how I got my 3 kids, who are all hearing impaired, who are special needs, like I say, that my children are all special needs.
Yes.
Yeah.
you were saying it's a long story. It's worth hearing like that narrated. I don't see what part you could have cut out of what you have just said. It's part of the whole idea of walking through what the parents are feeling, what the mother is going through. And in saying it, even in pointing out the lack, because I'm looking at you and you're pretty educated, well, I would say well established and everything, and you're having those difficulties. Just imagine somebody in a rural area, and that's the end of it. That's just going to be. But we know, thank God, thank the heavens, that okay, hearing impaired, for some, as I'm saying here, that is the end of your life. You just will be there and nothing's going to come out of it. But as you said, you had the opportunity to take them to Kenya, and so walk us through. Are they right now? Are they able to speak? How functional are they right now? I know that the oldest must be 30, because guess what?
Yes.
My son was born on November 25th of 1990.
Wow.
Yes. So he was born 2 days after Gerald was born.
Yeah.
So I know that math very easily, because my son is turning 30, just like your son is going to be turning 30 as well.
Yes.
So now I'm sure everybody who's listening to us and watching is saying, okay, so what has happened to them? How functional are they?
Okay, it's where I ended was just up to the point of diagnosis.
Right.
After diagnosis is a totally different ballgame. Because now, first, you have to come to terms with the fact that these children are not speaking and they will not speak.
Right.
So what do? You have to look for a school for them. You have to look. Now you're also losing out on the milestones. You know, when a child is born, their milestones, their developmental milestones start.
Right.
So the fact that you have all this delayed diagnosis doesn't mean that the milestones are the life doesn't continue. Life is going on. So you have to start finding out, how do you get into the system? Now, so while in Kenya, very interesting setup, the hospital where we went, because by the time we were leaving Cameroon, I can tell you what I knew was sign language training for the deaf.
Correct.
By the time we were leaving Kenya. And that was what I was leaving Cameroon, sorry. That's what I was taking my son to Kenya to go and enroll in a school in Kenya.
Correct.
When we got to Kenya, the hospital where the children were assessed, they were having a program, a rehabilitation program or habilitation program within that hospital. So it's called the Giants Hearing Center.
Okay. So Nairobi.
Yes, in Nairobi, Kenya.
Okay.
Giants Hearing Center in the Nairobi Hospital, Nairobi, Kenya. So we were informed of the habilitation program that was there at that time. In fact, it was just downstairs. So we went downstairs and immediately enrolled. That was my first time of hearing of oral training for the deaf, because they were practicing oral training. So I enrolled in the program. My son also enrolled. We were just trying to see how we can develop some communication. I didn't even know that it was going to work. But still, I had not ruled out my going to the school for the deaf, which was called Machako School for the Deaf. One day in the house, sometimes God plans your things and you don't know. One time, my sister had cooked some food which had a lot of cheese in it. So when the food was served, my son looked at it and he said, if I eat this food, I'll die. He could only make gestures, so he said, I would die.
Right.
So my sister looked at him and said, now, if I take this child to this town, where he will have to start learning how to eat Kenyan food, are they not going to call me one day that this child is dying? So that ruled out the fact that we should take him to that school, because it was a boarding school.
Right.
Less goes and the food might be not too familiar for him, then he starts dying.
He has
That was
more problems than the one that brought him there.
yes. So that is how we ruled out the sign language and now enrolled in the oral training.
So what is this oral training specifically? I'm just curious
Yes.
to know.
Oral training, they call it auditory verbal training.
Okay.
It's a form of communication for the deaf where they are taught to listen and to speak. They listen through the use of hearing aids, which is an amplification device.
Okay.
So when a child is diagnosed to be hearing impaired, the first thing to do is to introduce hearing, which is now through their hearing aids or cochlear implants, whatever it is, whatever option. You either go for the hearing aids or you go for cochlear implant. And once you have that, then you now start training the child how to speak. My dear, I can tell you that it is just not like as simple as it sounds.
Oh, it's not simple. I can imagine that it's not simple at all. I mean, regular,
Yes.
we call quote unquote regular children, because I think about special needs, quote unquote children
Yes.
who are not impaired. Hey, those of us who sat down, who've raised any children, you sit down there starting from scratch before they go and you start to teach them stuff. It's not easy, even with kids that are not special needs. How much more?
Yeah. Yeah. So, and the other challenge that we had, despite the fact that we're in Kenya, was that even the auditory verbal therapy training for hearing impaired children was not very common. In fact, it was only in this institution at the Nairobi hospital at the time. So we were like, how do I do this? And then it was also quite expensive because they were charging per hour.
Ooh.
And here am I with 3 children.
Oh, Lord.
And they were charging per hour something Kenyan shillings at the time was about 3,000 Kenyan shillings, which was close to about, let me say, $5. I want to put it that way at that time. And then here am I had lost my job earlier on because there was no institution that could give me the time I needed to be running around for my children's sake. And I had also relocated to a foreign country where jobs are not given to foreigners like that.
Right.
So I was at home and our support was coming from my husband, who was the person working at the time, even though he's retired now. He gave us all the support. And then we just, that amount of money we did not have, because you're talking about 1 hour per child. So you're talking of at least $15 every hour.
Right. Right. I don't even want to think about it.
For the amount of money that we had, we could not make it. But we tried. We could do maybe 2 hours a week. But then one time again, I don't even know how I stumbled. No. It is the teacher of giants who mentioned the John Tracy program for parents with deaf children. John Tracy program is in the US.
Okay.
So that teacher, where the children are, mentioned to me that there is a program in the US for parents with hearing impaired children. And they can actually train you online for you to be able to train your children.
Wow.
So she gave me the contacts for the John Tracy program. Immediately I enrolled and they accepted me. And the beauty about it is that it was free for parents. So they will send me notes, lesson 1, lesson 2. I will learn, I will give back my feedback, I will practice on my children. But still, I had another challenge. The challenge which came was that my 3 children were at different stages.
Right.
And the program it's programmed for the different ages. So with Gerard, I will be at age 4. With Sammy, I'll be at Gerard age 4. With Sammy, age 2. With Victory is age 0 or age 1, a few months. So it was quite challenging. But let me tell you, dear sister, that was the best thing that ever happened to my life.
Praise
The
God.
first day Gerard uttered the word mom.
Oh,
Oh my goodness. It sounded like, ah, you know, for a parent with a hearing child, you don't even know what it means. You know, you are talking about a child who is 6 years old, uttering their first, even just saying mama
right.
at the age of 6. I celebrated that word. I celebrated. I kept on just prompting him to keep saying, mom, 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 mom. So that is how I continued with all of them. And they started developing speech because I had to give my reports back to the John Tracy program.
Right.
I also had to give them how many words we had done per week. I had to give that report. So I would have to do it with each child. I even had to take them outside in the garden to also get environmental sound, because speech is not only what you hear, it is what you hear, it is the environmental clue. For
Correct.
example, if a car is passing outside, you need to hear the sound to know that it is a car.
Right.
If it's a bird singing, you need to hear the sound of the bird
And associate it with.
correct, to be able to link that sound to that animal. If it's a dog, if it's whatever. So it's about taking the children outside to also get all these environmental clues to now enhance their communication. So I was doing all that. At some point, I just
the things we take for granted. The things we take for granted. Like if I hear a dog bark now, I don't have to see the dog. I just know that's a dog barking.
yes,
But
but
for a
you
kid
have
who
to
has not been,
yes, you have to take the child
yes,
to show the child that this sound you're hearing is from a dog, and this is the dog.
right.
So you do all that.
Right.
Then at some point, I pulled them, because I had also taken them to school in Kenya, even though I was doing the background knowledge.
Right.
And now, since my focus was on the speech, it was not developing as fast because, of course, in schools, a teacher has 40 children in the class. How does that teacher focus on this one child?
Cannot afford to dedicate one-on-one time with one of 40.
Yes. So I withdrew them from school and I started homeschooling.
Right.
I did homeschooling with myself, and I hired a teacher. I would do the language. The teacher would teach them other academic subjects. Up until when they were, for about 2 years, 3 years. At the end of 2, 3 years, I thought, now, these kids need more exposure than just at home.
Right.
That led me now to creating a school in Kenya, which I call the Eden School, which was also a virgin program, because the one at Giles was a hospital setup for a hearing impaired, for a department of hearing impaired, but now we had to set up a school. So together with other parents, we set up a school, and our main mode of instruction was oral language, because we train them to listen and to speak. They are able to verbalize, they are able to read and write. So my children now can verbalize. Now, I must also mention this. I know there's a problem with sign language and deaf culture and people's human rights, the deaf's rights and their language is sign. I have nothing against sign, but my position is that people should be given the option to know both and make an informed choice. That's my first position. Secondly, I also think the population, the world, what percentage of the world signs? A very small percentage.
Right.
Why do we continue to penalize an already marginalized group because of their condition by imposing that they must only sign?
Right.
Which I think to me is not very fair. Technology is bridging the gap.
Right.
I talked cochlear implant. Actually, I dare say in Europe and the developed world, I think people are deaf now by choice because they have newborn and infant screening, which makes your child to be screened very early, and the parent, they start educating the parent, and the parent can be able to make an informed choice whether I want my child to sign or I want my child to go through the cochlear. I'm not very sure, but I think I hear they even subsidize the surgery for cochlear implant. But for us out on this other side of the globe, it's not that. So you just navigate blindly until where you can stumble on something like I did. But I would go for auditory verbal therapy anytime because it gives the hearing impaired a better position for integration into society.
Into regular society, in regular the mainstream society.
Correct. Yes.
Right.
But if you are a sign language practicing person, you always have to go with an interpreter because the rest of the world is not signing. Right. So there must always be an interpreter. So unless there are other reasons, personally, I will always advocate for speech for the deaf, unless otherwise.
Right. Yeah. And if for me, it's a logical thing. It's a logical thing. You've explained it so well. I cannot see you logically advocating for anything else for the reasons you have mentioned. Because out here, it's a little bit more developed, as you have said. So sign language, most of the time, you'd see somebody signing in a major conference when there's somebody's making a speech. Somebody's there signing at churches. They hire an interpreter. But the word, you're not going to get on a bus and expect the bus driver is going to sign and say, you need to come down. You see, I understand you. I hear you. It makes sense that way to want to get a kid, if you can, to get somebody who can function as much as possible in the mainstream world. So talking about that, I wanted to bring in the whole, because a few things that you've mentioned here and there, I wanted to bring up the whole stigma issue. Yes. Yeah. Because I know very well that back in our day growing up, you have a child like that comes to a regular classroom, or we'll give the child names. Yeah. We will say Mumu. We will say Mumu, yes. Yes. And that, which
Mumu Ngombe. It's not only Mumu, Mumu Ngombe.
I tell you. And that will help you, the parent, and just make the kid who's already bewildered and like, what's going on here? So I don't know if that's too painful a thing to delve into for you, or if you want to talk about it, talk about the stigma involved, and also the stigma involved, and the chuchotage, the stuff that we all talk about and point fingers and say, how was that for you?
Yeah, stigma is real, very real, and I don't even think there's any end to stigma. Even up to now, we still go through stigma. The only difference is that you're more aware, you're more in charge of yourself, so you don't get affected. But to tell you some of the things we've gone through, our family was treated like a cursed family. You have been cursed by the gods for some wrongdoing, or whether it is my husband with his eye, I don't know who was cursed, but that is some of the stories. You have been cursed. And interestingly, even at the level of the church, your family is under demonic influence. Your family is under ancestral curses. And yet, the Bible says, if any man is in Christ, is a new creation, behold, the old is gone. Here am I'm in Christ, and somebody is telling me I am under the influence of ancestral curses. Oh, you have not prayed enough. You struggle with all this.
I can imagine.
Emotionally. But that should not be the end of it. Mm-hmm. This should push you to learn more, to read more, to be in charge. So that is what it pushed me to do. First, like I talked of the John Tracy program, I learned a lot from them. Mm-hmm. It helped me to cope, because that way it gave me an answer to some of the questions I didn't have. Then I also speak to professionals. I'm with the audiologist, I'm with the ENT doctor. I want to understand what exactly. So that gave me a lot of knowledge to be able to understand what it is and how I can manage it.
Right.
When it comes to the Christian circles, to the religious circle, let me put it that way. I'm a Christian, and I believe a lot in the Bible, the Word of God. God opened my eyes to a certain passage in the Bible which really helped me. John chapter 9, verse 1 to 3. When Jesus had just healed a blind man, and his disciples came and asked him, who sinned that this man was born blind? And Jesus said, nobody sinned. This man was born blind so that the greatness of God will be seen in his life. I said, wow. That gave me an answer. Oh, you are cursed, oh, you are there. I said, no, I am not cursed. My children are fearfully and wonderfully made in the eyes of God. The Bible says, before you were conceived in your mother's womb, God knew you. So God knew them before they were born. And if God allowed them in this world, there is a way they can survive in the world. And the greatness of God will be seen in their life.
Hallelujah.
That is now what was my position. I said, these children, they are fearfully and wonderfully made.
And I don't know, I hope nobody's joining this show now when I already shown the pictures. They are extra fearful. Oh, those are some good looking kids right there.
Yes.
God took his extra time, and they're not just fearfully and wonderfully made, it's like ×2. And they're each of them has a double dose of it right there. Clearly.
And they are very intelligent. Very, very intelligent. Because now Gerard is a professional photographer. He's even been privileged to cover the former Prime Minister of Kenya, His Excellency Raila Amolo Odinga. Gerard covered him in an event. That is a deaf child who had the privilege to cover the Prime Minister because he proved himself in his job, because they will not just call him out of emotions.
Right.
Call him because he did a good job. And honestly, he is the most fantastic photographer I've ever seen.
I agree. I have seen the pictures. The pictures are fantastic. But because those pictures that I showed, they're from his studio, right? Because
yes, correct.
Excellent. This is an inspirational kind of thing. I'm sitting here and going, yes, go, mom. Advocacy. Your attitude, because you see, if you had not had the spirit that you had, it would be a completely different story. So I do not know how these words would sound to you, but I'm saying God handpicked you and said, okay, I have this, my special, precious 3 souls. He looked, and discounted some of us like, no. This one cannot do it, and found you and said, I'm very serious about what I'm saying. The same way he handpicked Mary to be the mother of Jesus, looked at her qualities, knew that he will come and tell her, you're going to have a child, you're not without any man involved. And she's like, my soul does magnify the Lord. And I'm going, God knows he cannot pick a person like me for that, because I'm like, no, Papa, but please, no. But he gave you an assignment, which is where I see it, and you have just executed it so wonderfully. Whatever it is that you could put for those children out there to give them, because look at all the brilliance, none of it will come out if you don't travel to Yaoundé for testing, go to Kenya for this and that, go to the Tracy program and learn all of these things. And I'm just hoping and praying, the reason I have you here on this show is that some other mother who's challenged and getting discouraged, some other parents who are there about to, because some of these things can break a family, can break a marriage.
Yes.
And this one's saying, this other family is saying it's just from your side, the other one is saying it's from your side, blah, blah, blah. And then you come and break up and add to the issue. All you're doing is just make the issue so much more complicated when those other things happen. Yeah. And so I'm praying that somebody is listening who is going to be so encouraged by what you have done. And you talked about your first son being a photographer. What about the other two?
Before I get there, you just mentioned advocacy. The first thing I would like to say is that you said something which you did. I have a way of saying it. God can only give special children to a special woman.
Is amen to that.
So I consider myself a special woman who was given a special assignment, and I ask for special grace to execute that special assignment. So that's where I am. Now, the grace doesn't end with me. God never gives you something for yourself. Whatever God gives you is for his people. Right. And you have to go out there to make sure that you let other people experience what God has taken you through. Angels will not fall from heaven to do it. It's you and I to do it. Now, while in Kenya, because I must also mention that I've relocated to Cameroon. I'm now in Douala. We are 1 year old here.
Okay.
While in Kenya, I had founded a parent group calling the Hearing-Impaired Voices of Kenya. Okay. This was an organization that brought together parents with children who are hearing impaired. Because the first voice of a hearing impaired child is you, the parent.
Of course.
Sometimes I also say a special needs child does not come with a special manual. It only comes with a parent who does not give up. Whether it's a father, whether it is a mother. They don't come with any manual that will tell you that do this for the child, do that for the child. No. You have to wake up and be that parent who will not give up, no matter the stigma. There is no special manual. You have to just do the work. Be the voice. The parent is the first voice before you start training the child to speak. You are the first voice to that child to articulate the child's needs in society.
Exactly.
Whether it is in school or you have to go to school every other day to make sure that you are following up with the child. When it comes to legislation, the countries that have developed is because parents have been able to speak and speak aloud, and things have happened to their children.
Exactly.
So the parent is the first voice, which I would advocate anytime. Don't give up on that divine role to advocate for your child. I have just relocated to Cameroon. I'm still looking for, my first objective is to have my children, have other people do some work. Then I am definitely sure I'll go into advocacy because I don't think I have any other thing. But right now, this is what we are doing.
Right.
I have been talking on TV channels. I was on CRTV. Even in Kenya, I was on other TV channels just to try and encourage, motivate other parents who have the challenge.
Motivate other parents who have the children, and then educate those of us who may not have the hearing impaired children to be more compassionate and just be aware of what's going on.
Thank you so much.
Right.
That is so wonderful. Thank you. Now, you asked about my children. They went through school. Before Gerard became a photographer, let me just give a little bit of background.
Right.
When mobile phones just came, in those days, there were no memory cards for mobile phones. Gerard will take my phone every other second. The next time I'm looking at my phone, the memory is full. Gerard has put a video, he has taken pictures, he has done lots of things with my phone. So I told myself, let me just buy a video camera for this child to take him off my phone. Then I bought him a video camera. And the first day he touched that camera, he shot a video. That was in 2007. Shot a video. I still have that video up to today. So we were on holidays in Cameroon when he did that video. When we went back to Kenya, I looked for a teacher because I started seeing he's probably talented in that area. I said, let me get a teacher to come and train him. But when I got somebody to train him, the person came and said, no, this child is very steady on the camera. Don't train him in shooting. His skills are good. And I'm telling you, this is somebody who has not yet touched the camera. Train him in editing. He will be able to do a better job in editing than in shooting. I can tell you that where Gerard worked in Kenya before he left, his boss didn't want him to go. He said, this is one of my best editors. I don't know where you're taking him to. I said, no, we have to go back home. So that's how Gerard got into photography. Now, Sammy, my second, he loved football. He wanted every way to play football. He's even in privilege to be the trophies and all that. But somehow with his challenge, the football world, unless he went into the disabled
category,
yes, he could not do football, even though football was his passion.
Right.
But he was also somebody who was very physical, like using his hands-on person, and energetic. So I looked at him again, which is a comment I would want to make. When you have special needs children, observe your child very closely. If they talk of quantity and quality time you spend with the child, you has a special needs. There's no quantity you can quantify the time you will spend with that child. You need to spend as much time as possible because it's interacting with the child that you will pick out what that child can do. And the only thing you can do is to encourage that child to do what, first of all, they like and they can do it. So when I discovered that Sami was a very hands-on person, and then I looked at Gerard, who was a photographer, I said, okay, why don't I get this one also to do in some area of photography, but now in mounting, to enlarge pictures, do the mounting, since he's a hands-on person. So like I call them, Gerard is the software technician, Sami is the hardware technician.
I am so impressed, I am speechless. I am so impressed, I am speechless. These lessons are not only for parents of children who have special needs. All of us are doing exactly what you're saying there.
Yeah.
Because so that different talents and things, it's our job to sit there and observe and see what they're good at instead of making a big old lawyer out of someone who is an accountant at heart.
Of course, yeah. And then you end up, he cannot perform and you start blaming him.
Or he's performing them, but he's an unhappy, unfulfilled person.
Exactly.
We have lots of that. It's not that they're not making money. They reach the inside their soul. You see a person there doing this thing, but when he picks up a guitar, when he's now 50, finally learning to play the guitar he had always wanted to do, you see the joy. At the French call it épanouissement. I don't know what the word is.
Exactly.
But and that's not, let me just stop talking and just let you go back, because I was so impressed with what you're saying. That is not only special needs kids, it's for all of us parents raising children.
Yeah. So that's how I just observed Sami and got him now into doing the mounting.
Right.
Then Victory is the beautician. Her hand is just perfect in beauty. Same process. They all went to school up to high school. Then now after high school, what? You need to start, because just going university, I thought, let me get them a profession so that they can become professionals and be able to fit the society, earn their own living, and not have to depend too much on me or on us.
Self-sufficiency, that's what you're teaching them.
Correct. So when I saw that she too was coming up with a lot of beauty, I took her to beauty college. So she's a one-man beauty powerhouse, I can tell you. She does makeup. She's a makeup artist, manicure, pedicure, massage, facial, everything. Honestly, she is a one-man makeup beauty powerhouse.
To them, that what you have said right there, that is my cue to go ahead and go right back to my album thing that I had compared there, because I made you send me some pictures. That is my cue to show you that what she's saying is not just beb beb, as they say. She is talking, let me see. So there you go, right there. Okay. Am I sharing my screen yet?
Yes.
Okay, so that's you right there in the center.
Yes, yes.
And what this t-shirt says something there, they say Jevisa Beauty. So what's going on there? Did I say it right?
Yes.
Okay, so what is this Jevisa thing right there? I see on the t-shirt, on the polo, it says Jevisa Beauty.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Jevisa is an institution that I created, which is one of the things I want to focus on in Cameroon.
Okay.
And may I just say, Jevisa stands for J-E for Gerard, D-I for Victory, S-A for Sam.
So it is a coined name from their names, from their first names.
Exactly.
How neat is that? Awesome.
But Jevisa is a project through which I want to reach out to the hearing impaired and other children with special needs.
Okay.
You see, we can educate them, the children with special needs. But when it comes to providing jobs for them,
right.
My question is, how many institutions are ready
to employ them? Yes.
Yes.
Right.
And let alone for us in Africa. I'm sure in the developed world, if a hearing impaired child is in an institution, the government will hire an interpreter for that child.
Right.
But for us here, where we are not economically strong, which institution is ready to take one person and pay 2 salaries? Because you need an interpreter.
Exactly.
So that is why I thought, if we have an institution where we can make these children become self-reliant, be able to do their own thing, and get integrated in society, then they stand a better position for integration as opposed to struggling to get a job. They will earn a living.
They will.
So that's why I created this Jevisa, which is an all under one roof. There's the photo studio.
It says right there. It says Institut de Beauté, Salon de Coiffure, Studio Photo. Right there. And on this thing right here. So this is an actual physical building in Douala right there?
Yes, it's there already, just above 1 year old. We have been there for slightly above a year. As soon as I landed, I hit the road running.
Right.
Because that's where my passion is.
Correct.
To make sure that I want to reach out to other people. God has given me the grace. I said it at the beginning that when God gives you something, it's not for yourself.
Right.
It's for you and God's people.
That's right.
You are just an instrument in his hands to be used.
Exactly.
And that's where I position myself. I want to reach out to as many hearing impaired people as possible, adults, particularly making them to be independent.
Right.
Be close to independent, even if they're not totally independent. But you know, if I would ask you, how did you feel when you earned your first salary?
I know.
I'm sure you felt good.
Yes. There's a certain amount of worth, self-worth that comes with that.
Self-worth,
yes. No matter how small the paycheck, but I am the one who made this. Is a very important feeling.
Yeah. So if you give this hearing impaired child who has not even had the opportunity to have formal education, because formal education is still a challenge here for hearing impaired children,
right?
But has a career path to a vocational institution where he can train, come out and be independent in society. I think that's where I want to be, and that will be my job, to train as many as I can. We have just started, we have a few already, and we are working on increasing the numbers as the resources will permit us.
Thank you for that. And so that building I saw there, where is it located in Douala? Where?
The building is in Douala in one of the main streets. They call it 138 Boulevard de la République.
So Boulevard de la République.
Yeah, to be more precise, they call it, it's not far from Forush Pesenge,
Okay.
and it is near what they call, opposite what they call Ancien Izes.
Okay.
Yes.
So that's
if you
somebody
can.
who now, I'm saying it, this is Christmas time coming. You have your family portraits to take as a family. Why not
Oh,
go there? And then before you, this is just a wonderful, well-coordinated thing you've done. Go there
yeah.
with your, wash your face clean and go sit there. Let the makeup artist make you all up. Then you go to the photographer, he takes the pictures. Then you go to the framer, he frames the pictures. Let me go back to
Correct.
the album and really show you what she's talking about right there. This
Yeah.
was, I was thought at the building, okay, right there in Besenge, where she
Yeah.
says it is.
Yeah.
Okay, so there is the photographer that it says right there on the back of his shirt, the Jevisa photos, right there.
Yeah.
You can see the backdrop there, you can see the lights, the professional lights right there. And here is Monsieur himself, the photographer.
Yeah.
Look at there, ready to take, and you can see the hearing aid thing right there.
Yeah.
Here.
Yeah.
Here's another picture. Is that him still right there?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. Setting up the lights and everything.
Yeah.
Let's look at a few more. There he is.
Yeah.
Covering a ceremony. There.
Yes, that
Yeah.
was an event.
An event that he was covering.
Yeah.
And then there now somebody actually standing in the studio and being taken a photograph of, which is what I'm saying.
Yes. Yes.
Because I know people are listening to this and saying, how can I help? Okay.
Yeah.
Only taking handouts, go and actually patronize. They are
Yes.
not saying, please give me, sitting on the road with a bowl, saying put a $10 in my bowl. I'm just begging. That's a skill. That instrument he's holding in his hand right there costs money. He's actually working to earn his pay. Now here comes Monsieur number 2. So this is Sammy.
Sammy.
Right?
Yeah, Sammy.
Yeah. There he is too, working. They said you would work and make do from the sweat of your brow. There he is doing work.
Yeah.
There he is again. I actually see a picture there that he's framing.
Yeah.
Right there with all the focus and everything on it. There he is. I don't know if that's still him.
Yeah, he is.
Yes, and there's already an already framed picture I can see right here.
Correct.
That's already worked on. This is him doing the work still and a whole bunch of things. And then now we get to Victory. Child number 3, the only daughter. And this is the beauty place. This is clearly a massage going on, but that's somebody lying there on their lying face down, and she's doing a massage right there.
Yeah.
That's the massage thing continuing. This is a facial going on here, I see.
Yes.
Yes, and then okay, there's a pedicure going on there too.
Yeah.
You see, so I mean, this is not just that this is a mother just talking, and no, that's the proof of it. This is the actual work. This must be the whole. Now this is like braiding.
Hairdressers.
Yes, braiding going on, hair dye thing going on there. That is why I was saying, wow, and this is a guy, right? Doing hair.
Yes, barbershop, cutting.
The barbershop is cutting the hair. Okay, I think there's another barbershop one. There you go, and shaving a beard right there.
Yeah.
So I guess if you carried yourself to this place in Besenge, where she's saying to Jevisa, it's a whole center. You have everything. It's a one-stop shop. You go and get yourself looking good, get your photographs taken, ask for them to be framed for you right there and then. This is awesome. I see the beauty. That's where the t-shirt, the polos came from. It says Jevisa, and it says Jevisa concept, because you keep insisting, you keep saying, there you are. There you are right there. It says, please, I'm not showing the picture for nothing. See the little engravement at the bottom of it. It says, Visa photography. This kind of photography will make even some of us who have the flaws just cover the flaws. Right there.
Oh,
I am so very, I can tell you, if I land in that Douala, I will definitely make sure that I go there and have myself taken care of and a picture taken. There.
You're very welcome.
I am so impressed. And you've only been back 1 year. Only been back 1 year.
Yes.
Wow.
But it's not only when you visit us. If you also have an event, for example, a wedding,
okay,
we can come to you, do the makeup, do the hair, cut the grooms, cover your event. That is a one stop shopping. You just sit down and have everything done, and you have your pictures and wonderful pictures.
One person, instead of running after the photographer here, where are the pictures? Running after the artist, then you're late to everything.
Exactly.
You them and they come, and all those bridesmaids, whether you have 12 of them, all those groomsmen, and all the pictures. Fantastic.
Yes.
That's what you have.
Thank you.
I'm in such awe. I'm just like, oh wow. And we sit here saying you've raised your 2 children, and you're sitting there and your shoulders are like, yeah, I don't kill them. Then you see somebody like you, Felicia, and I am in awe that God gave you this assignment and you are executing it to a T. Like, it's the thing with flying colors. But my next thing is going to be, okay, you talked about, no, you're very welcome. You talked about not being able to do a regular 9-to-5 job anymore because you're dedicated to doing this stuff. It's a huge responsibility on its own.
Yeah.
Your plans, I can hear you speaking so passionately with all of these plans you've got to not just help us. You've said it, you've made the quotation, and maybe 3 times at least in this show that we've been doing, about how God has given you an opportunity. It's not for just you, it's for his people. So I know you want to go bigger than this. Help parents, help the children themselves.
Yeah.
That costs money.
Yeah.
A whole lot of it. I know that there's a time when they've done a GoFundMe before just to get the batteries for those hearing aids. Just tell us a little bit about it. What is the cost? Just give us just to give people listening an idea.
Okay.
What is the cost? Yes.
Now, when you opt for auditory verbal training for children, it's challenging. Okay, there's no bringing up a child is challenging, but this one is even more challenging.
Right.
The hearing aids batteries for my 3 kids, a packet of 6 batteries is $10 every 2 weeks. So in my house, before we have eaten or before anything, the packet of hearing aids batteries has to be there. Let me give you a story. There was a time we left Kenya and came to Cameroon and forgot the batteries in Kenya. We got to Cameroon within the first 2 weeks, the batteries were down. It's like life came to an end.
Yeah.
Mom, I cannot hear. Mom, I cannot hear.
Oh, I know. I just
it
imagine.
was so stressful. Fortunately, the keys of the house was with somebody in Kenya, so I called. I have some friends in Kenya Airways because can you believe that in Cameroon I could not get batteries? North, east, west, or south, I went all over, there were no batteries. Finally, the batteries were brought from Kenya, and I thank God that at least they were okay. So the cost of hearing, and right now I cannot go through that anymore. I make sure I keep a set of batteries. The stress. You can imagine, put yourself in the child's position, because now the hearing aids is like their ears.
Right.
If you were to lose your hearing now,
I know.
you'd be a very miserable person.
Yes. When we just have a common cold and the hearing is a little bit defective, or when you're flying and you're having to swallow to clear,
yes.
You're in a panic for those few minutes.
So imagine that people who are hearing are dependent on their hearing aids. The hearing aid is not performance. It's a problem. That takes me now to the GoFundMe we talked about, which is a GoFundMe we did in 2020.
Right.
Because we were supposed to replace the hearing aids for the children. Unfortunately,
now the hearing aids themselves, not just the batteries.
Yes, not batteries. It was hearing aids, because this hearing aid, you know how technology is. The lifespan of its hearing aids is 2-3 years. And here am I, these children, Gerard started wearing hearing aids at 6, Sammy at the age of 3, and Victory at the age of 2. So which means we have changed like how many sets of hearing. When 2020 came with all the challenges that it came with, you remember 2020 is when COVID was also. That was the time, it was time to change the hearing aids, and we could not afford it. So a friend stepped in and said, why don't you try GoFundMe? I'm like, why? No. She said, no, you don't have a choice. I'm going to do it. And she did it, and we raised the money, and we were able to replace the hearing aids, which I'm really forever grateful that people came to our help.
Right. And I must just interject right there with the whole stigma thing again.
Yeah.
Because the reason people, I have done a bunch of GoFundMes my own self and gone through and seen the people for whom I'm doing the GoFundMe struggle with even allowing that GoFundMe should happen.
Yeah.
Because what the rest of us sit and say, beggy, that they beg money and something. They put that there and make the people who have respect. Look at these precious children that we've just watched there, young adults, functional. The GoFundMe helped at a time when it was needed. It's one thing if I come to you and say, I'm sorry for getting on my little soapbox, but I have to say this because I have gone through the thing and seen people's reaction, and I want to address that and say we should stop doing that finger pointing, judging thing.
Yeah.
Acting for all the world as if because it hasn't happened to you.
Yeah.
What does anybody do to, if I'm saying I'm raising money for you to come and bail me out, I murdered some people and I sexually assaulted some people and I'm saying come and give me money to get out of jail, that's a different thing. That's a crime committed. You can say sit there and rot and pay for it, pay the penalty. 3 children born, what is their fault? What is their crime? As we said, and they need this assistance. And then we are the other ones who will be sitting and saying the hurtful things that sometimes people say. I had to just stop in and say that there because that's not right. It's just not right. Where people are now offended because you now may have said no. At whose expense? No, don't put our name out there. They will see our name and say we are this kind of people. Your own family itself. I've seen a case. I did a GoFundMe for somebody who it is her own relatives who were calling her and telling her not to do it. And I said to her, okay, fine. I'm not insisting. It's not as if I don't have anything to do with my time. I'm not insisting on doing a GoFundMe, but please let me know. Ask them when they say this to you. Are you now willing to pay for this treatment for this lady? If the answer is yes, then of course, I wash my hands and go on with your life. But the same person saying don't do this is not willing to cough up the amount of money it takes to fix the person. So in that case, then I don't want to say shut up, but I've already just said it. Please keep quiet. Let me say a more polite way. Keep quiet and let the person get help from where they can get it honestly. After nobody's forcing you, from the goodness of your heart is where you give. And they say you're giving and saying, okay, or you're not wanting to give and saying it does not concern me. Do you know what your next child or grandchild or nephew or niece can very easily be in this condition? Then you'll be the one trying to say, and you'll be in that position. So compassion is what we lack. Compassion is what some of us lack. Being able to put ourselves in the position of somebody else and say, wow, look at what they're going through. Let me help. I had to stop in and say that and address the issue because I have seen it happen and it bothers me. And I'm so glad you don't let that stop you from saying, I will do this because that's what is necessary for my kids' good and for the other children that you're planning to help.
Actually, you just touched a little bit on the financial implication. The financial implication is very heavy. Like I started by saying that hearing aids batteries, because we use a packet, each child takes 2 pieces. 1 packet is 6 batteries, and in 2 weeks they are done. So, and that's $10 every 2 weeks.
Right.
Hearing aids themselves are not cheap. They go between from $3,000 to almost $10,000, depending on what you use, the technology you use. If you want to talk about cochlear implants, even cochlear implant for us here in Africa is even unheard of because it's millions. And we don't have any subvention or anything to subsidize the cost. So, and right now, as we do, my husband, who was the sole breadwinner of the family, is retired, but the needs are still there, and we have to keep moving on.
Right.
And just trusting, looking out for help. And I must also say that there are so many people who have helped us. I have a friend, I will not pronounce her name because I didn't have her permission to say this. I have a friend who has given us hearing aids batteries for almost 10 years.
Wow. God
Can
bless.
you, she's in Germany, she's a German lady. Can you just calculate $10 every 2 weeks for 10 years? How much did that person suffer?
Sacrifice, put up there. God bless her.
So we have had people who have helped, like the hearing aids that we bought in 2020, which are about to be
I was
obsolete.
going to say, because you said they have a 3-year span, 2020,
Normally
2023.
it's 2 to 3. We are already past 2. So we need to start seeing how we do the next step.
Yeah.
But I thank God that there are people out there who have also helped.
And that is, and I hope they continue to do, and I hope this helps. That's the reason for bringing you here, not just to listen to the story and everything, and then be like, where, and then we all go back and just continue life as usual. Life as just keep going. I have you here so you tell the story, so you say what it is that you're doing, what your plans are, not just for your own biological children, but for other children. And
Yes.
that is why I asked information from you. And just last night before we came on to do this show, we talked to and got her to please to go ahead and set up a new GoFundMe afresh for all of these needs and things. Yes, and what I did, let me go find it. What I did was put a little card together with all that information, because I know people who are listening to us or watching us now will say, oh, what can I do to help? So here we go. That's what that GoFundMe campaign, this is a brand new GoFundMe campaign that has just been set up yesterday. It says a brighter future for Cameroon's hearing impaired. So these are Cameroon's hearing impaired. Those are her biological children. But then when she says Cameroon's hearing impaired, it wants to go beyond just her own 3 biological children.
Correct.
So this is what you're going to see. It says GoFundMe right there. This has already been set up. And it says Dravisa Center for the Hearing Impaired. So it's not just that this is their studio and it's the beauty salon. It's supposed to be a center that people can go to, pretty much like the one that she was privileged to find existing in Kenya that was able to. But how many people can travel to Kenya from Cameroon? So it's a good thing to have one place right there. It says the purpose of it is to enrich the lives of the hearing impaired community and those with special needs in Cameroon. So do you plan on doing a little bit more than just hearing impaired, special needs in general?
Yeah. Okay. Some, not
some,
all.
You can't handle all.
Yeah, we have some cases, like, those people they call slow learners.
Yes.
Yeah, and
the ones that get beaten in school.
Yes, who cannot perform academically.
Correct.
So we can give them a career instead of, which is not too academically involved. Let them also be able to earn a living.
All right. So now this is the card I said I had put up there. I'm going to leave it there and go and read through it for those who are listening on the radio. There's the GoFundMe thing that I said has just been set up. So it's the HTTPS, which means it's a secure thing. GoFundMe things are secure. And then you have the 2 forward slashes and it goes GoFund.me. That's how it's split. GoFund.me. And then another forward slash 5A. And this is a 09FC47. And I'm going to tell those who are listening on the radio, please, this is going to end up on YouTube. So that's where you can actually go if you don't hear me say it clearly now. Because when you're listening to the radio, you cannot rewind. You are just there and whatever has been said has already gone and passed. So I would encourage anybody listening on the radio to make sure they go find this video, the video on YouTube, which is where it's going to end up being with the information on it. So there's the GoFundMe. There is the MTN Momo number right there in Cameroon. If you're in Cameroon, you don't know the 237 there. I think you just need the 677599693. And there's an Orange Money number too, which is 692684477. And the name that goes on the accounts is right there. It's her name. It's not as if somebody else is trying to do any hanky-panky fishy thing there. It says right there, Tendo Foinmbam Felicia MUSINGS right there. The names that you use are right there on this card too. There is a third option if you choose to do a bank transfer. The bank is Healthcare Systems Federal Credit Union. The name on that account is Janice Bisson. That would be your niece, right?
That's my niece.
That's your niece, yes, because I know your sister is Mrs. Bisong.
Yeah.
The account number is there, 3037010091. And then there's a routing number, 2560785543. I know that's a whole lot for people who are listening on radio to follow up. That's why I'm saying, make sure you go to the video. And I've had this sitting on the screen right there for this amount of time. So you can take a screenshot, you can grab a little cell phone, take a picture of this screen you see right here. So you see the different options that you have. Those of us out here, definitely we are the GoFundMe people. You go there, this is the link right there. In fact, if you go to GoFundMe, let me just go back 1 second. And look it up your own self. This is what you'd see. This is the picture right here. If you enter like Jevisa, it should surely pop up. If you just enter this thing, the logo, the theme, a brighter future for Cameroon's hearing impaired, you search within GoFundMe, it will pull this up for you, your own self. So even if you're listening on radio and you're not too sure, go on to GoFundMe.com, or I don't know if it's a .com or a .org, I forget which one, and you'll find it right there and open the thing and see and make your donation. It's an appeal one is making, is that with no shame and no inhibitions whatsoever, because it is for a definite good cause. This is what a set of parents have done. A woman and her husband, she at the forefront actually doing the hands-on work. And the story of their 3 children is a very happy, different story, simply because they have done what it took. And then they are willing to not just do our own children, they are good to go and end of story. We don't care about anybody else. They are willing to see what they can do to help other similarly challenged children. What would be anybody's reason not to come and give the widow's mite, a dime here to just help support this cause? She has, let me stop the share. She has told us, all of us, you cannot unhear this. You cannot unsee it. You already heard it, you already saw it. It's sitting there on your conscience. I sit and I'm thinking, when I hear batteries, is to put it in one of the toys you bought for your kids. Christmas time is coming. You put the Christmas lights, you put batteries there. Then before long, the season is pretty long. Oh, the batteries in this one have died. You go and buy some more batteries. That is for Christmas lights. This is not for Christmas lights for the fun and fanfare. You can choose to have no Christmas lights on your Christmas tree. You have no Christmas tree at all. Nothing will really happen to you. But these children, let me go and pull up their faces again so you see them nice and clear. These children, when they do not have batteries for their devices right there, like she said, that one scary time, it wasn't funny. So there they are, well-accomplished children, and then there are others like them whose pictures we don't have up here that need that help. So my appeal to you, listener, my appeal to you, viewer, is do something about it. I'm going to go ahead and give her the last word. I have no clue how long we've been talking, because I just have been so interesting and so mind-boggling and touching. We could easily sit here for a whole day and just keep talking, but I would want you to go ahead and what is the last thing you'd like to say in closing to the listeners and the viewers?
Thank you. What I would want to say in closing will be first to the parents. No matter what child he gets, whether the child is hearing impaired, whether they are born slow learners, whether they are born any special needs child, even with normal children, do not give up on your child. Every child has a potential. All you need to do is spend as much time as you can with your child to discover their potential and help that child build on their potential. Don't give up on the child. No matter how, even if the child presents to be stubborn, you can still be able to reach out to that child and make that child a useful member of society. That is what I'll tell parents. And my final word will be a very big thank you, first of all, to you who has given me this platform through which to express our story, and also that would enable us to reach to other people, because that's the main objective, to put a smile on somebody's face. I went through more than 6 years in the dark. It's not a funny position in which to be. My telephone number is out there. It's as well a mobile number and a telephone number. If there is a parent, specifically, particularly in Cameroon, I hope people in Cameroon would listen to this. If you need help, especially when it comes to your child, just give me a call. And then we'll look at the options. In July, I had to travel to Kenya with a parent who had the money to buy hearing aids for her child, but could not get it in Cameroon. I helped her go out there, saw my audiologist. We went to the audiologist together with the son, and everything was done, and the child came back with hearing aids, and they are really happy.
Thank God.
To me, I love to see that.
Thank
I
God.
love it. So I would always be grateful that we had this platform to be able to reach out to other people, and may the Lord bless you abundantly for this good work you are doing.
May He bless you triple, quadruple, I don't know what, quintuple, I do not know what the other pools are. For real. First of all I've done is just sit here and allow you to just talk and speak. And sometimes I was just tearing up. Sometimes I was like, preach, amen, hallelujah. Just trying not to shout. Because what you're saying is so on point. God bless you. God bless those precious children. Victory,
Gerard,
Sammy,
Victory,
and I'm going in reverse order.
Yeah.
Bless them, and maybe the time come when they will be even a bigger, because they already are, even a bigger testament to God's goodness, a bigger testament to good parenting, a bigger testament to dedicated parents. I teach out here, so I see it. I don't want to necessarily be critical, but sometimes some people have dropped the ball on this parenting thing. You have the children and you clothe them with the latest brand of something else, but you're not there. It's this time sacrifice. You're not there, and it shows. It's not the brand name thing that's going to make the kid do well in school. And sometimes when they do well emotionally, the stories we have to listen to that these children say, And sometimes you see the parent out there having a good old time, out in Dubai, out in Cancun, out in which place on a cruise. And I'm almost going, what about this, the child that I'm seeing here in the classroom, who is sitting there emotionally starved of your warmth? And sometimes we mistake the giving of these things, material things, we confuse it as good parenting, which there's nothing wrong with providing wonderful things for your kids. Don't get me wrong, that's not what I'm saying. But sometimes it is you they need to be in their corner. Because if you're not there with them, you don't see what's going on there. The need that they have, in this case, a special need, sometimes the bullying that they're going through there, they've come back home from school, they don't have anybody to tell that story to. So they're sitting and keeping it inside. And one day they snap, and you're saying, look at what this kid did, sometimes you don't know where they're coming from, what has been boiling up in them. So what you have said, I tell you, when I put this out there, it is not going to be only for the parents of special needs kids. It's all of us parents, all of us parents, all of us that are the village that it takes to raise a child. We have a part to play in the thing. And I believe when that, I'm not trying to scare anybody or trying to guilt trip anybody, but it's the truth. The day you are asked to give an account of what it is that you have done, that is part of the account. What did you do? I sent my child to you. Those of us that are Christian believe that. God sends the kids to you. They are His, but He sends them to you. And part of your stewardship is what did you do with my child I sent you? And who's at least be able to answer and say, I did all I could. The kids still did not turn out the way we would have expected. That's a different thing. But if you have to say, I just hoped the kid will turn out fine, you now have a person there who has a clean, clear, shining example of what it has taken her this far to get her children to where they are. So I would want to thank everybody. I thank you for making the time to come sit here. You're a very busy person. I don't want to go into the pharmacy part and how it was Founders Day. Just the other day, I tell you, the woman just never sleeps, does not sleep, I tell you. I sit here feeling guilty texting her and saying, she should be sleeping now, but I don't want to forget, so let me go ahead and text her. She will see it when she wakes up, Usai. Before a few minutes or whatever it is, here comes the answer. she doesn't sleep. And so thank you for the work you've done for these precious children, for the work you've done as a mother, for the work, the advocacy, that work that you're doing, for a whole country not to have what it takes to take care of children like this who are born with special needs is an issue. I'm not a politician, so I don't go into politics and that kind of stuff, but hopefully somebody is listening who can and will do something. And I hope somebody is also listening who here's a person already willing and able and qualified, because she knows what she's talking about, to do this. It's not a business for her, it's her lifestyle. I would say whatever, millions, billions, nothing is too big, just as nothing is too small. Contact her. That's probably what I should, the last screen I should put up there. Contact her. She said that number right there. Let me find it again. The number that was there was the, also her phone number, that Momo number right there. Let me end with that. Put the screen right there. Call her, reach out. Reach out. If it's through me, through anybody that you know, any of the names that you see there, reach out, ask, find out if you're willing to be a philanthropist that can help fund some of this. Please speak up. If you're the kind of person who'd rather stay in the backgrounds and just do, you can donate to GoFundMe anonymously. If you don't want to put your name out there, you can do that too. And if you please, that is just the final thing I'll say. Let's not just be hearers only, but doers. Let's try and do something about the situation, so we don't only whine, grumble, complain, go where, and do the thing that James says. You tell a person who is shivering and cold, you don't give them a coat to say, go and be warm. How are they going to be warm? You need to do your own part. So thank you so much for being here to come and share your story with us. And dear viewers and listeners, thank you so much for listening and for viewing. So without anything else, I'm going to go ahead and close the show for today. I don't know whether there's going to be a part 2 where we come and we say, thank you, because look at what the money that has been raised. And when that building, that center finally is, because I believe strongly it will be, set of day will come, and we'll come and rejoice over here and say, look at what has been done with what you gave. So thank you and goodbye for now.